right, it's 1 minute gone past the hour of 9 o'clock, and this morning it's Tuesday, and it's that time when I welcome you to the Point program for today. And of course, this morning I am joined via our Zoom platform by my good friend. I hope we remain good friends because, as I was telling him before we came on the set, we were good friends before. Now he's a big shot politician. They usually forget their friends until it's 4.5 years into the term. But nonetheless, this morning I'm happy to be joined by my friend Jelani Glean. He is the NNP's caretaker for the constituency of St. Patrick West. Good morning, my good friend.
Good morning to you. I hope you're hearing me well. I'm a little bit raspy. I've been fighting with the flu.
I can see it on your bed.
Yeah, so it's been a challenge for me across the weekend. But I'm here. I'm thrilled to be with you nonetheless. So good morning to you and good morning to all your viewers, those joining us online. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now let's, time usually elapses so quickly when we're having good conversation, so let's not waste much time. It's the first time I'm interviewing you as a politician. All right, as a perspective, as a perspective. In the past, we've spoken on all other things, primarily football. But now I'm talking to you in a different capacity. What has it been like for you, having earned that franchise of being NNP's caretaker for the constituency of St. Patrick West?
It's really been an honor. I've been involved in politics for some time now, behind the scenes, just doing my part as a resident, as a citizen of Grenada. I've always been involved in community activities, helping, wherever I can. And this really and truly has been an opportunity for me to step forward and really make the difference that I want to see happen, particularly in St. Patrick. So it's been not without its challenges, but it's really and truly, been an honor to be given this opportunity to help prepare our constituency and organize our constituency as it pertains to, political work and being ready to engage as elections approach.
And how are your constituents doing? Those that you are daring to take care of eventually, how are they doing? What is the vibe? What's the feeling like in the constituency?
I think Boise, has a song that puts it best. I think the spirit is a bit heavy. I think they feel a bit heavy, heavy laden, heavy burdened. With cost of living issues being, at the forefront of some of the challenges that we have. We do have some issues with healthcare. Of course, us being right at the north, we're furthest away from the general hospital. The polyclinic at Guav is not fully operational and cannot deal with a lot of medical emergencies. And so too is the Princess Alice Hospital at Maribor. And that too, again, based on the medical emergency, you have to make your way to the general hospital. Now, you have to also consider that the general hospital is essentially an hour away minimum. And also the Princess Alice is also, at least 45 minutes away or so. That could mean life and death for some persons, as persons have experienced in the past. There is the cost of food on the plate, recent increases in electricity and fuel bills. So it's a bit much. We've had our fishermen now having to deal with the recent fishing ban that's been imposed, soon to go into effect January 1st. I think they're a little bit worried and concerned about that. Our farmers, vendors at the market, the cost at which they have to sell the produce right now, you're seeing that the consumption has dipped a bit. So sales for them has been down, which also means that sales at the supermarket for the cheaper food item might be up a little bit. which means we're again supporting imported food more than we're supporting the local food and healthier foods that we like to promote. So, it's been with its challenges, but we do look for the bright spots in between. Magdalene College is doing well at, school football. We've seen the return of primary school football, and also we're excited about that. There isn't, too much to celebrate here. We've seen the government do some consultation with the fishermen within the parish, so that is good to update them as to where they are with the same fishing ban and what they're doing. So that's a plus. So we're looking for, wherever there is a glimmer of hope, there is anything that we can do to ease the burdens as we go forward together. We've also seen increases in prices again, the breweries and all of that. So we really get the brunt of it, and because there's a transportation cost towards goods coming to the north, we always pay a little dollar or two more than it is sold in St. George's. So we really face the brunt of it, in its totality, and we're hoping to, whatever we can get to alleviate that a bit. We're looking forward towards that.
I'm happy that you said that the residents in your constituency the residents have had some consultation with the government, because your constituency, when you look at what's happening in Sates, in Davie, Mount Craven, Mount Rodney, Mount Alexander, Duquesne, and they are predominantly fishing villages. So what sort of response have you been having from the fisher folks as it relates to the pending ban on fish products from Grenada into the U.S. come January? What sort of responses have you been getting from them?
Well, I've been in close dialogue with them, and I think it's more or less their concern. There's fear, because we have fishermen who still owe the bank, paying back for the boats or the engines and so forth. And, that's where they ply the trade. They worry about their abilities to take care of their families. They worry about the drop in price and the value of the catch, once that ban comes into play. That in itself is worrying to anybody, any family, any human being. And I think they were grateful to have the consultation. But what the fear continues, because there is not that regular communication between the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Fisheries, and the fisher folk, whereby that information is flowing on a regular basis. I don't think a plan with timelines have been, communicated to them. So yes, the promises have been made, and then the ministry is working seriously on doing whatever it can to alleviate the situation. But we have not seen a thought-out plan with milestones and timelines and so forth as to when, a lot of these things will go into place, so that come January 1st, when this ban should be implemented, the fisher folk can rest assured that, hey, we have met all of the requirements, and that the folks from NOAA would have submitted the reapplication. They would have come in, they would have done their checks, and would approve us from being removed from the ban list, so that we could continue selling our fish to the U.S. market. That hasn't been done, and so I think persons are still worried. We need to know if to get the ban removed, it may take us into the end of the first quarter of next year, so the fishermen can communicate with the banks, they can start saving, they can make the adjustments that they need to, they could return to the bank to get some assistance in maybe purchasing the camera equipment and whatever other things that they need to do personally to ensure that we get there. So we just need to know, in terms of time frames and milestones, where are we going? And how are we getting there, and what the fisher folk should expect, and so that they can make the necessary adjustment to calm the fear a little bit.
So if you are being considered as a liaison between the constituents and the ministry responsible All right, you're supposed to be transporting or transferring messages from the ministry to your constituents and vice versa. What would you like to see coming from the ministry responsible, especially as it relates to the fisher folks? Because I know for a fact that the coastline, that area there, they're predominantly fishermen. So what would you like to see coming from the ministry perspective, the line ministry with responsibility for fisheries?
Well, like I mentioned, I believe that what is most pertinent at this point in time is a properly laid out, transparent plan with milestones, deadlines, timelines, timeframes, so that we know what to expect at what point in time. Now, for example, there is legislation that needs to change. When is that going to be tabled in Parliament? Also, there is a commission that is a fishing commission that is supposed.
Okay, unfortunately, we seem to have a connectivity. Okay, he's back.
Okay, you're hearing me now?
Yes, I'm there with you.
Okay, right. So I was saying that what we would like to see is a plan with timelines, deadlines, milestones, that we can see where we are at this point in time, and that come January 1st, that we would have met all the criteria, would have been reevaluated and removed from that list by January 1st. The part of that plan should include things, for example, like the legislature that needs to change. When is that going to be presented in Parliament? There is a commission, a fishing commission, that needs to be implemented. When are we going to see the implementation of that? And, the other boxes that we need to tick that would ensure that come January 1st, the folks from NOAA would have received our new application, would have visited, would have checked all the boxes, and would have and will be advising that we be removed from the list before January 1st. That is the plan that we want to see laid out, and we want continuous communication along those lines. So if we expect, what do we expect by the end of October? There should be a report coming back to the fisher folk. Hey, this is what we said we would do, where we would be. This is where we are. We're advancing in certain areas. We're a little behind in others, but here's what we hope to do to get up speed, plus what we need to accomplish for the next month. We need that kind of breakdown and that type of transparency, because you can imagine, Brother Innocent, laying your lifeline, taking care of your family, taking care of your bills at your home, providing food on the table, your trade, your career, putting that in the hands of someone else where you have no control and you are depending on that person or that entity, holding the type of fear and anxiety that you may be going through across that period of time, in the hope that come January 1st, everything will be okay. You would have done what you needed to do. The ministry would have done what they need to do. And we are now at a place where we can move forward without costing you $1 to your pocket.
As a good shepherd, right, have you, because of the seriousness of that matter, especially as it relates to the fisher folks, all right, because there is a multiplier effect. It's not just the fishermen who will be impacted by that. There's a multiplier effect. Have you had any engagements with the parliamentary representative for the constituency, that's Foreign Affairs Minister Joseph Andal, and have you also had conversations with the minister with responsibilities for fisheries to get updates and timelines so that you can disseminate such information to the constituents?
No, I have not seen Minister Andal in this constituency for a very long period of time. And I followed Minister Andrew on his presentation to the fisher folk as to where they were and what the plans were going forward. But again, like I'm mentioning, in terms of the plan going forward, there are not timelines and milestones. So we don't know if we're hitting the marks that we need to in a timely fashion so that we can ensure that come January 1st, we are where we need to be. Now, the reality might very well be that between now and January 1st, given the number of things that we may have to do, for example, we may have to hit HACCP requirements in terms of the vendors selling at the fish market, the way in which they manage and handle the fish. that takes training. It takes some time to get that in place. We want to ensure that realistically we know when we can get ourselves off the ban list. So it may well be maybe May next year. It may take us a year to be able to put all the things that we need to put in place. The fact of the matter is we need to know what that time frame is, and that there is a plan with milestones, deadlines, checklists that we can tick off as we move forward, that is going to deliver us getting off that ban list in the shortest possible time. And I think that is what we want to see, and then that should be coupled with a clear communication line between the ministry and the fishermen folk, so that the level of anxiety, like I said, can be released. Because you can imagine, come January 1st, we need another 6 months or 8 months to get ourselves off that list. What the consequences are for our fisher folk, and that is what I think the end game that we're trying to avoid and ensure that we manage. Now, the reality there may be nothing we can do about it, and that's the reality. Again, what is our plan to assist them in ensuring that the impact of this it's minimal? Are we looking for new markets in the meantime that we can divert some of that fish to? Are we looking to help them subsidize the cost of the equipment and so forth that they need to bring in? Are we going to therefore include, because we have about 3,000 fishermen with about 900 boats, right? Are we going to include them in some social program that they receive some assistance from the government to help them, with their livelihood? Those are some of the things that we're interested in at the moment.
I want to go to a commercial break, but I want to get over that topic of fish, because when we come back, I want to get into agriculture itself, crops and so forth. But let me ask you this. Let's assume that election is called and you contest the election and you win. What would you do differently to enhance, safeguard, and protect your fisher folks in your constituency, and by extension, fishing on Grenada as a whole?
Well, for me in particular, the fishing industry requires more help than just the NOAA. For example, in Sotets, the fish market in Sotets, the vending area does not meet the standard that is required. There is no cold storage. The door for the cold storage area that has been in action over a year or more than that. And even though the equipment for the cold storage has been there since last year, July, the ice machine, which is a substandard ice machine, that hasn't been working for the past month or so. There is no cold storage for the fishing up here. So there's lots more that we have to look at. And then there is the whole idea of coastal erosion and so forth along the entire northern coast of St. Patrick. And that's another issue that we have to start paying attention to, to help safeguard and, the vessels and that type of thing. So, being given that opportunity, I think it all boils back down to having a plan that delivers results, managing that plan, and once doing so, communicate effectively and transparently so that the persons, all stakeholders involved, have a clear idea as to what is taking place and where we are in the process.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Glean. We take a commercial break. When we come back after the break, we want to talk about agriculture and the whole issue of food security. Folks, this is To The Point. I'm speaking with NNP's caretaker for the constituency of St. Patrick West, Mr. Jelani Glean. We take a commercial break. We'll be back. This is To The Point.
Hubbard's, Grenada Broadcasting Network, Grenada Paper Products, Grenada Distillers Limited, makers of Clark's Court, Grenada's #1 rum, Grenville Cooperative Credit Union, Rennick Thompson and Company Limited, and Pierre Marcel, proud partners of the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Sunday, November 9th, 5 p.m., Grenada Trade Center.
Grenadians, get ready to commemorate National Heroes Day on Sunday, October 19th at the former Riviera Riviera Hotel site next to Kamahon Park. Grand dance from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. The theme for this year's commemoration, honoring our legacy, inspiring our future. This National Heroes Day commemoration promises to be one to remember, with a prayer and worship segment, the spoken word, and a powerful message from our special guest speaker. National Heroes Day commemoration 2025 will also see the official sword turning on the grounds of the Riviera site, which will then be known as National Heroes and Heritage Park. Sunday, October 19th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. National Heroes Day commemoration. Monrouge, St. George. See you there.
Welcome back to The Point, and this morning our guest is NNP's caretaker for the constituency of St. Patrick West, Mr. Jelani Glean. Mr. Glean, I just want to go back to agriculture, right? What are your impressions as it relates to local food production? I'm talking agriculture, the raw crops, vegetables, and so forth. What is your impression? What are your impressions on that? Firstly, in your constituency, but then looking by and large, the Grenada on a whole. What would you say? You need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear now.
Okay, great. Yes, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned, and even more so following, natural disasters. We always a little bit more concerned after natural disasters because one, most of our farmers can't get insurance for their farms, and therefore they suffer all the loss. Government assistance is never going to be adequate enough to assist farmers in restarting their businesses, covering their losses, because we have to understand that when the government gives assistance, it's not enough to cover the losses that you would have incurred. You may have incurred up to $50,000, $30,000, $20,000 in losses based on the crop and the size of the plot that you have. So when you get, a $5,000 or even a $10,000 to help restart, remember most of that monies are going to be going into recleaning the area, and getting prepared back again for planting. Sometimes the monies are not even enough to acquire the seeds and the fertilizers and so on to recultivate, right? So it is always concerning. So following Hurricane Beryl, we've had a decrease in our production. In 2024, production would have been decreased by about 15% in agriculture. And that says a lot. Particularly our nutmeg farmers, they've taken a heavy blow, losing a lot of the nutmeg trees, and have another 25 years to look forward towards another mature production cycle from replanting. That news can bode well for their pockets at all. When we look at our ability to sustainably produce enough food for our local population, I think there is a lot of concern there. I think we fall way below the amount of food that we need to produce. And part of that challenge, though, is not just producing the amount of food we need to produce, but producing it at a price point that the consumers can afford. Yes? Without that, I don't think we will get the benefit that we're really looking forward to, because we have to bear in mind that food is our medicine. Yes.
Yeah.
And if we can, produce the foods that we consume in its majority, then that'll be a wonderful thing. When we look at our import bill, our national consumption, right? We basically only produce about 15% of the foods that we consume. That leaves a whopping 85% of foods that we eating that are imported. Now, let's bear in mind a lot of those foods are processed foods. And we see in the long term now that a lot of persons in our society are now facing health challenges, which can be associated with a lot of the foods that you have eaten over the lifespan. Now, it's not about eating, some things here or there, but once we consume, for example, if you drink a soda a day that contains 24 grams of sugar, and you drink one a day, 5 days a week, and you think of how many grams, 4 weeks a month, or 52 weeks a year, multiplied by 10 years of your life, you can understand the amount of sugar that you're consuming. And that leads to, health complications and so forth. Versus compared to, the local juices that we can, and better yet, just the fruit juice by itself, sucking an orange, sucking a grapefruit, a mandarin, those types of things. I think that's the direction we want to go. So I can say the total production of that sustainably, it's always alarming. I don't think at this point in time we even understand where we are. In terms of our food production, understanding how much land in Grenada is producing food at this moment. How much land do we have?
But the thing about it is, producing the food is one. Firstly, the producing in any context is costly, but then the market for it, because I've always advocated for there to be a control in production so that there would never be a glut on the market, because there are times when you'll be paying $5 for a pound of tomatoes, and there are times when you'll get 3 for $10. You understand? 3 pounds for $10. So there's no point in producing and mass producing, but the market is not controlled. So that's the first step. So having said that, what do you see as opportunities, all right, nationally, that can be created for farming, agribusiness, and so forth?
All right. So just before I roll forward, I want to slightly disagree with you. I think it starts with planning. That's where I think it starts, not with mass production. It starts with planning. And to plan well, we first and foremost need to understand what are the markets available for us, what is the size of those markets, and what are the fruits and vegetables, that goes towards each market, right? So for example, the export market might be for 2 or 3 crops that we do very well. Nutmeg, we get into sour sops now, and we can introduce something else to the export market. Ginger, for example, right? That's for the export market. For the local market, we now have to segregate that again. What's for the hotel, what's for the restaurants, and then what's for home use, right? What's that market going to be? What are the fruits, vegetables, and so forth that is required for each market? Once we understand that, we now have to match that against what lands and farming methods and techniques we have available that can match the production needs for those markets. If we don't understand that, we are always going to suffer from having sudden gluts on the market or having scarcity on the market, which is going to lead to severe price fluctuations, as you have mentioned previously. But now, in terms of opportunities, I think we have some opportunities created already. For example, let's look at the school feeding program. When we look at what's on the menu of the school feeding program, rice, pasta, pies, macaroni and cheese, chicken, how many of that is produced locally? Or imagine we have a school feeding program for some 30-odd secondary schools and probably 80-something primary schools across the island. Creating a market where food needs to be prepared and used daily, where our government is supporting that program. And yet for all, our farmers are not included. And every time we think of our farmers, including our farmers, we always want our farmers to donate their spare production, added production that they can donate and contribute. I'm not saying farmers can donate and contribute, but at least let's provide a market for the farmers as well. And maybe they will be more inclined to donate and contribute some excess or some added products that they may have that they didn't intentionally produce for sale in the market and so on to support the program. So programs like these can really produce. And I think before we even look at added markets, like I said, we need to properly evaluate and assess the markets we currently have available to us and put a methodology in place that can produce enough to satisfy each of those markets. So, for example, we may have 25 farmers producing just for the school feeding program alone. We may have another 15 farmers producing for our restaurants and supermarkets alone. We may have 20 farmers producing for the export market alone. So therefore, you can see where the product is going, how we can regulate, where we can put in more subsidies to affect, the price production, the price point of these foods and so on that we're producing. And it applies not only to our crops, but also to our meat production as well, which is also under duress. Yeah, we need more meat production coming out of our farmers so that we could consume locally produced meat, our pork, our goat meat, our mutton, our beef, whatever it be, or chicken in particular.
Well, if I may interject here, I am in communication with the butchers very regularly, and nowadays even beef is scarce on the market. We do not have a constant supply of cows or cattle on the island. So ever so often you would find them having to go up to St. Vincent. I don't think there's a readily available resource in Carriacou. Again, we used to go up to Carriacou and get cows and goats and come down, but that seemed to have exhausted. Let me ask this. Agriculture and tourism should be coexisting. All right? How do you think agriculture can be linked to tourism under that pure Grenada brand?
I have 2 words for you. Fish Friday. Same way in which we have our Fish Friday at Goa. And congratulations to the people who came up with that and continue to keep it going. Now we've seen in Sobeys, there is something there every Saturday with seafood. We see now in St. Mark, there is the food festival where they do a lot of our local foods and so on and so forth, prepared traditionally and served as part of our culture. These are the types of things we want to see with our agriculture. The food, our Grenadian food culture has to become part of our pure Grenada tourism position, right? Wellness, good food, traditionally prepared. When we think of jerk chicken, first place that comes to mind is Jamaica, food and culture. Similarly, we're not positioning our oil down to think the same way. However, Grenada's cultural food experience goes way beyond just our oil down. I mean, our dry pea soup, or green pea soup for that matter, our cuckoo, or fried breadfruit, or fried plantains, or cocoa tea. All of those are part of the Grenadian food experience. And I'm sure many of our culinary experts can use a lot of the local things that we have, our coconut and our chocolates and our, our rums and all those things, and put them together so that we could continue having a year-round culinary experience that is unique to Grenada. And I think that is the direction we want to see our agritourism going. What about our farms? Why can't we have medicinal farms that person can visit? Farms with our local fruits that people can visit to see local fruits that are produced right here in Grenada that is known for here across the island. Things like our French cashews and, all of those, our pineapples and, whatever it is that we produce here locally and get to sample them and taste them. Our honey, different farms give you different types of honey, different grades, different tastes, different flavors, those types of things. What about a botanical garden with all of our local flowers? or medicinal herbs, or beautification flowers. We have so much, space across tourism for agriculture to really implement and have its impact. It's sad to see that we're not investing a little bit more across those, those prospects and remain focused only on local crop production just for sale in the local market.
Mr. Glean, we're due for a break, right? But before we go to that break, I want to ask you this question. How significant you think the now defunct MNIB with that new private-public partnership that is going to take over from it. How significant a role do you think this has to play in the agricultural sector, the development of the agricultural sector in Grenada?
Oh, that's a very important point. No, that to me goes on two scales. One, MNIB is responsible for export markets. They should be finding export markets and then collating the production locally to meet those market needs. So that is important for our farmers. So like I'm saying, we need to find those 2-3 products that we can export, very well and mass produce so that they can help us find the markets and satisfy those markets. They need to tell us what those markets are. That's one. And secondly, MNIB is also important in providing the Grenadian public with local fruits and vegetables on a daily basis, locally produced, organic fruits and vegetables from our farmers, from the farm to your table through the MNIB on a daily basis, right? They are the ones who should be taking in. So that local, so if we're looking, for example, for that data that speaks to local consumption, what the local market, the local populace is consuming, not in the restaurant, not in the hotels and so forth, what the local home are consuming. MNIB should be able to give us very valid information on that because a lot of that produce is supposed to go through there, and the other channel is the local vendor markets. So we should be able to collect a lot of that information and produce that. So in part of the plan, MNIB was a very important part and should always be an important element going forward in determining the market, creating those markets, helping us have data on the market, and as well as providing the farmers with that data so they know how much of what to produce for that market.
Mr. Glean, we're due for another commercial break. Stay with us. Don't you go anywhere, viewers and listeners. This is To The Point, and this morning I'm speaking with Mr. Jelani Glean, the NNP's caretaker for the constituency of St. Patrick West. We take a break. We'll be back after these. Don't you go anywhere.
Residents of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, have you ever wondered how you can benefit from Grenada's Citizenship by Investment program? Join the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada for the next IMA Symposium Series on October 22nd at 5:30 p.m. at the Mermaid Hotel Conference Room, Carriacou. This public forum will explore how local developers and those aspiring to become developers can access new earning opportunities through the CBI program. Hear from key experts representing the Investment Migration Agency, the CBI Committee, and the Grenada Investment Development Corporation as they discuss recent regulatory changes designed to expand local participation. This is your chance to gain insight, ask questions, and discover how you can be part of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique's development story. Don't miss it. Join the conversation on October 22nd at 5:30 p.m. at the Mermaid Hotel Conference Room.
He was a voice from the pulpit, now away from the altar, but never away from purpose. Father Gerald Paul now takes the Legends stage with fire, conviction, and a call of self that's stirring the nation. The 19th annual How About Legends in Concert, Sunday, November 9th, 5 p.m., Grenada Trade Center. Father Gerard Paul sings Truth to Power.
In the face of all this violence, I will breathe.
Along with the Best of Grenada, Black Prince, and the Pink Panther. Tickets $60 and are available at all Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies, Quick Stop at Otway Service Station, Springs Food Mart, Clear Vision Eye Center, Gittins Pharmacy, St. George's, St. David's Pharmacy, and GoodFed.com. Father Gerard Paul, along with the voices of legends and their stories that shaped generations. The 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert. One stage, one night. Get your tickets now.
Cannot just pretend everything is fine as I run me mind.
The Ministry of Agriculture is inviting all of Grenada to join in the national observance of World Food Day 2025, guided by the theme Hand in Hand for Better Food and a Better Future. Our national celebrations will run from October 13th, culminating with the grand exhibition at the Old Trafford Playing Field, Tantine, on Friday, October 17th, 2025. Let us all unite to make this year's event the very best, connecting householders, farmers, agricultural partners, schools, and community groups. International World Food Day observance, October 16th. National World Food Day celebrations, October 13th to the 17th. Be a part of Grenada's food security drive.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. This is To The Point for today, Tuesday, the 14th day of October. I'm talking with Mr. Jelani, Glean, NNP's caretaker for the St. Patrick West constituency. We remain on the topic of agriculture because your constituency is predominantly of agriculture constituency, the parish of St. Patrick, and so forth. In terms of modernizing agriculture, one of the main hindrance to farming, for it to be lucrative and sustainable, we have this plague, a man-made plague called predial larceny. What can you suggest? What would you like to see happen? Because it's very demoralizing as a farmer. You toil, no one is there to help. Even if you want labor is hard to find. So you toil and you do what you can do. But when it's harvesting time, some folks are intent on helping you, even if when you're not there, to help you harvest. What suggestions can you come forth with that will curb that malady of a predial larceny?
That's a very good question. I myself have been a victim of predial larceny, and I know the frustration and headache and anger you sometimes feel when you as a farmer have to go through that type of scenario. For me, the first thing is the unit of the RGPF, the predial larceny unit of the RGPF, has to be large enough to deal with the issue of predial larceny, right? A lot of the theft that occurs in predial larceny occurs at night, right? That unit must then be provided with modern tools, things like drones. This doesn't just go to predial larceny; it goes to island-wide security on a whole. If we have things like drones, CCTV, and so on set up in key locations and places. So, for example, we can see, let's say a farmer in Shanty Mill. you may have a drone flying over. Drones have infrared and so forth. So you can see when there are people in the land. You can see the body heat and so forth. So you can see when there's people in the land. So you as a unit don't necessarily have to go and patrol the bushes every night. But you could park in key locations, send your drone up, and it can cover wide areas. And you can look and do periodic monitoring and so forth. You can set up cameras on farms, hunter cameras. In the US, people do that when they go and hunt. So, they set up the camera there for a week, and then they get a pattern of around what time the animals pass by, and then they set up themselves to go out and hunt. But similarly, we can see when the thieves pass by, we can see who the thieves are, and we can apprehend them, right? In addition to that, if you have the CCTV set up in certain areas, they have to drive fast. They have to move with the goods. Yes? No one is going and steal, 100 melons in someone's field, or 50 melons in someone's field and walk out with it in a bag. So you can see where vehicles are moving. You can see the agricultural produce inside vehicles and so forth. You can now track these vehicles and inquire, hey, where did you get this load that you were passing with at 2 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning, right? So I think that the technology has to improve so that we can better apprehend, we can monitor a much bigger, wider space so that we can, have a unit size again that is man enough to do that. But you must have the manpower to do that. There must be somebody trained to use the drone. There must be somebody monitoring the CCTV and the farm cams and so forth that can collate that information and then pass it on to the unit and say, hey, look, we need to investigate this person, we need to investigate that person and that type of thing. I think that can be pretty effective in helping us deal with the whole idea of periodic larceny. Again, the laws on the books already, application of the law, heavy fines, and that type of thing.
Okay. All right. It's now 12 minutes on to 10 o'clock, and I would want to give our audience some time to interact with us as well. But what I will do is I will ask some pertinent questions, and while you deliberate on them, we will accommodate the calls in and between if you don't mind. A generic question here. As it relates to cost of living would not only affect your constituents, but it affects the nation as a whole. What are your thoughts on the cost of living in Grenada, and what can we do to remedy it? If it's too high, maybe we could bring it down. If it's low, bring it up. Folks, this is a time when you can call in, and of course, again, I urge you to be as brief, to the point, and respectable as always. You're always brief and respectable. Let's continue keeping that. As a matter of fact, we do have a first call. Let's take this call. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Welcome to the program.
Good morning. It seems as Mr. Glean is gleaning. And he's searching, but at the same time, Mr. Glean has to understand that it's only this government being innovative in terms of agriculture. Only recently, the Ministry of Agriculture, they've given assistance to our 20-something folks in food processing. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is something we have to understand. You have a government, or the former government, they've been in a position so long where they could have put a lot of things in place. And they never put things in place for sustainability of agriculture, for long-term use, so that people can feel, they have the sense of sustainability. And now you have people that come in and talk as if they have all the answers. Remember one thing, they always claim in the past that they were bright, and they also claim that this present administration are novices. They cannot do anything. They don't know anything. And we've seen a movement in Grenada, right? The NDC show that they understand what is going on. They're willing to improve in every area. Very innovative. They're doing a lot, not just in agriculture. Look at, for example, we recently had a road that we never seen work done on it for years, donkeys of years, from the Poe back to Beaton. We've seen the wash program.
Caller, in the interest of time, could you just be a bit more brief and to the point?
Well, again, it's amazing sometimes a lot of people take long, but I'm trying to be brief now.
Okay, please.
But at the end of the day, it's your program, so you know.
No, I don't mean it in that way.
The essence of it all is you're having people now that sung as an expert as if they can solve the problem when they had all the chance to do it. Former administration have a lot of chance to make good on what they were put in office for, and they did not do that. And now a government come only 3 years on something, and they expect magic to be done. And the fact remains that they've done a lot of work, and we have to see that, and we have to understand that. And Mr. Jelani should know that as well. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, caller. Mr. Glean, you care to respond?
Well, yeah, I'll try to be as brief as possible. First and foremost, I have never been a policymaker in government in Grenada before. This is my first attempt, and therefore I can only speak from what I'm doing going forward. But I'm certain, categorically, that the new National Party, whilst in government, would have assisted thousands of farmers. It's not the first natural disaster we've had. It's not the first time. The matter of fact, the new National Party is very well known for its feeder road program, helping, construct hundreds of roads across Grenada, as far as I can remember. And right here, even in St. Patrick, we have that road that connects Chantimel all the way through to Montreux. That was done, repaved. It's actually one of the better roads that we have as a farm road. So, that goes without saying. And to help 20 farmers, I showed everybody, I commend the government for helping who they can help. But it doesn't change the fact that we are where we are in the present. Too often we're trying to go forward by looking backward. I don't know how many of us try to get where we're going by looking backward, right? I'm trying to look forward. And the fact of the matter is, as we stand in Grenada here right now, we do not have an appreciation and a clear understanding of our markets. And that is why, for example, we're assisting agro-processors in doing agro-processing materials. To supply what market? To supply which market? Is it the export market? Is it the hotel and tourism market? Is it the local market? Who are they supplying to? And who is supplying them? Have we already gone into contracts and engagements with the other farmers to supply these producers? So that is my challenge with this present administration and persons who support this present administration. I always ask them, consider the planning of the administration. Consider the planning, the management, the communication, and the execution. Too often we've seen in many cases, and I could give a litany of examples, right? We've seen cases where things are not thought through. For example, we have all the goats and pigs and so on that came in. Farmers are yet to receive. And then to receive assistance from that program, the investment you have to make to construct pens and so on and so forth, it's out of the reach of most farmers. We need a situation where farmers can receive these animals and they can receive breeding from these animals with the local ones that they have to expand their production. Maybe when they get the money, part of that agreement has to be when you produce and you sell over, to get another round again, now you need to show us improvement in the direction we need you to go. Yeah. So we need to think things through and to have a proper management structure in place. Not just come and say we have 20 farmers here and we have 10 farmers here and we do a road here, we do a road there. We've gone past that. We're looking towards the future. We're looking towards sustainable production for our people.
Okay, we do have a caller via the WhatsApp platform. Good morning, caller. Welcome. Thanks for your patience.
Good morning, Innocent.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Glean. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning, I'm well, thank you.
Wonderful. I think the problem that we face today with agriculture, it stems all the way back from after Hurricane Ivan, right? And that's the first point. And when I say after Ivan, when the hurricane passed, normally you would expect a country to change its methodism of how it does things. Like, for example, nutmeg, cocoa, and bananas was some of our main exports. But enough wasn't done in rehabilitating that industry. Instead, we turned to tourism. And the tourism industry came about, and up to now, we still don't have enough to feed or supply the people. From Spice Island Beatrice to Sandals, even Real Value had to start a farm in closure, right? So the problem stems all the way back to 2004. And if we're moving forward to St. Patrick's, no, I doesn't even they use Bathway in St. Patrick since after the Breakwater project. The currents damaged, Bathway damaged for all these areas, and them got damaged due to that. So, moving forward, I was listening to your conversation, and you were asked if you speak to the representative or visit Mr. Handal or Mr. Andrews, and you say you follow. But as someone who working in the hotel industry and listening to news, we've seen recently that the Ministry of Agriculture hired about 200 persons for pre-dialasany. They brought a lot of animals to sustain the meat production down here, pigs, goat, which was given back to the farmers. We see some assistance given out. No.
Okay, caller, you need to wrap.
Okay, let me wrap up. We need to understand that the Honorable Peter David, he had something that he spoke of, which was the land tenure bill, that where you could get lands,
the land bank
for the land that used for planting or agriculture, not going to be used to build houses. This is something that messed up Grenada, and I think that we need to attack that. Okay. So, Mr. Glean, the contributions you're giving, some of it for me is wishful thinking, and we're just having ideas. But if you look back, the situation that Grenada is in, the new National Party failed Grenada in agriculture. And we're currently moving to China now, getting 100% tariff. So things are going to go up. If we had things picked from back then, maybe now it would have been better for us.
Okay. Caller?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Glean?
All right. So I'm not going to get into the whole idea of blame game. I leave that for who that entertains who. What I want to focus on here is in 2004, when our nutmeg industry took a hard hit from Hurricane Ivan, like I said, 20 to 25 years from mature production back from nutmegs again. We're in 2025. Ivan was in 2004. Yeah. So 2004 and 20 will take us to 2024. So we have not even gotten back into our nutmeg production, getting back to full mature production yet. But we are hit by another hurricane. But we expect the nutmeg production to get back to where it was before. I mean, there's some to be desired there. Now, when we look again, if you want to talk about nutmeg, I would focus more on the nutmeg oil production that we had going once. That was highly successful and earned a lot more in terms of creating value for the farmer. We look again at nutmeg farming. Nutmeg farmers received $3 a pound for nutmeg 20 years ago. Today, they're still receiving $3 a pound for nutmeg. So it's not an industry that's been growing, and the value, and farmers have been benefiting tremendously from growth within the industry, right? And that goes across all governments. It's not a matter of an NNP or NDC, because they've both been in government. So that's the reality. That's the fact. The truth of the matter is, this is where we are today. The question is, again, do we plan where we want to go to and create a system of delivering us there? Or do we sit and do things ad hoc and vice and just hope that by some luck that we hit the miracle part and it lands us to where we want to get to? Yes, I would say after Hurricane Ivan, we had an opportunity to redirect and rediverse. But after Hurricane Beryl, we had the same opportunity. And today, tomorrow, next year, next month, we will have the same opportunity. Because as long as we are alive and we have the courage to take on this task, to reevaluate, reassess, and come up with a plan for moving agriculture forward to where we want it to be, and not where it is currently is at, or where it used to be in the past, we are going to continue to suffer from this variation in food prices, not having a sustainable system in place.
Okay, we go back to the phone line. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Glean. Mr. Glean,
Good morning.
I have a few questions for you very quick because of time. It's a good thing you mentioned food price, because you was on the platform, not today, and you was saying that breadfruit was selling for $20. And then you say cabbage sell for $15. Well, I did my research. I called a couple supermarkets in Grenada, and there is no way that what you said is factual. You understand? Because breadfruit is $2 something and the cabbage was $4 something a pound. So please tell us that where you get that thing from. Another question. Okay, I heard you was talking about sugar beverages, right? And then you said that sugar is not good for people and how much sugar you consume. But again, Mr. Glean, you was on the same platform with Emily P and them talking about the government raised the price on sugar and you was saying that people need the sugar because people have to make the sugar cake and all these things. So that means telling me now that you guys are very contradicting.
Okay.
Contradictory, you understand? And my last question, the last time I asked you a question and you dodged it, you said it was a court matter. So today I'm still going to ask you concerning what was the issue between you and Terra, the governor. Have a good day.
All right, caller. Thank you very much. Mr. Glean?
All right, so 3 questions, 3 short answers. The issue with the breadfruit. Now, if the persons who like to cut up my speeches and things that I say on the platform and represent it how they want it, were to provide it in its entirety, this is what I said. I said after Hurricane Beryl, the prices of breadfruit soared to as high as $20, and that is a fact. The breadfruit was sold in the market in St. George for $20. It was sold in the market in Guelph for $20. As a matter of fact, up to 4 weeks ago, it was sold in Sobeys by the vendors by the road for $15. So don't just check supermarket
for a breadfruit, right?
And they buy more. Yes,
for a breadfruit. Okay.
For a breadfruit, facts, and there are persons who could testify to it because they bought it. Yes, so that's one. The second question.
Okay, don't tell me connection is going now that we're about to do the wrap. But folks, in case you're just joining us, you're just getting into the final moments of to the point.
Sugar products and all sugar products across the board. What you are doing inevitably is you are going to increase, 1, the cost of living for locals, and 2, you're also increasing the cost of production for the local vendors who depend on providing those little confectionaries to sell on a daily basis where they make their monies back. Those are 2 different contexts. Now, in terms of the foods, what we promote is healthy living. We're promoting eating our foods and so on that our farmers produce. The last time I checked, we didn't produce sugar in Grenada. So that is the context in which we are speaking here. So stick to the context. And thirdly, nothing has changed about the situation between Mr. Shem Bernard and myself. That is a court matter. The matter remains in court, and I will not be discussing this until that matter has been concluded.
All right, Mr. Glean, we've exhausted the time. It's now 3 minutes after 10 o'clock already, and I'll give you the opportunity to have your parting words. Anything of particular interest you'd like to disseminate before we wrap up?
Well, thank you again for the opportunity and for having me, and for your listeners and your viewers, for all those who called in and asked questions. For me, I would like to say that, for us to move forward as a people, and we can, we have the vision, we have the desire. What we lack is sometimes the courage, and not just the courage to do it, but because the courage to get started. And I think if we band together, because a lot of the things that I'm saying here today is not groundbreaking scientific research. It's not new methodology that just been discovered. So, for example, looking at investing into hydroponics and so on as a means of increasing the quantity of production given the same land space size might be an producing option that we have to look at. But then again, that's also going to require maybe some grant funding. It's going to require some assistance from the government and so forth. But it does not mean it cannot be done. What we lack in this construct, for me, is that planning. There is not a plan attached to the vision. So we all have the vision. We have similarities among the vision that we have for our country, whether it be in terms of agriculture, fishing, tourism. We have vision, infrastructure. What we often lack is a plan that delivers the vision that we want to see. Now, we can spend our time looking backwards. We can spend our time majoring in minor issues, or we can pull together and we can put the mandate on the people that we entrust with governing us to put such plans in place that can be managed and is communicated with us so that we remain abreast and we can make adjustments as we go forward. And we know for a fact we'll deliver the outcomes that we all want to enjoy as Grenadians. And so for my people in St. Patrick West and the wider St. Patrick as a whole, I encourage you to hold firm. Don't give up. I know things can become frustrating. I know the cost of living impact is, severe amongst us. I get calls every day. I get your calls. I receive them. I know, and especially our single mothers, Innocent. Our single mothers are facing a battle right now. And a lot of so for example, if we just quickly looking at tax breaks on reducing VAT on items that are necessary, do we consider that all the mature women in Grenada, those who've gone past gone through adolescence, have to purchase sanitary napkins and so on a monthly basis? If I have 3 daughters in my house plus my wife, think of that cost. Are we going to reduce some costs on that, as well as some taxes on that, so that it becomes more available to them? We have to look broader and to try to touch a wider scope. The training and so on that we're doing, are we including the mature woman, the woman who is 35 years and older and doesn't have an education or doesn't have a skill? Are we including her in our plan of how we are going to get her employed? Because they are amongst the largest percentage of unemployed persons in Grenada, not just the youth. And for our youth, we understand the frustration. There are little projects here. Our persons have to always migrate from St. Patrick to St. George's for job opportunities. We have to look at job creation in a serious way in St. Patrick. We want to work in our homes. And the only way we can do that is to create projects, to have businesses, have trained persons to supply the businesses with the type of employment opportunities they can create, the places that the investments are going to go into. We train our young people to fit in those areas so that we can together create the type of employment and industry for the rural economy that we want to see going forward. So hang in there. Your rescue mission is on the way. I am here. The new National Party is here.
Mr. Glean, very bold statements, but nonetheless, it's always a pleasure talking with you. And someone in the GBN says they love you still, all right? So, all right. So I want to wish you all the best in your endeavors. And, in the final analysis, what I would like to see is that politicians, despite your political proclivity, get to that point where we see Grenada first. We put Grenada first. And whether it's NNP, NDC, the movement, whatever, right? Electioneering is that time. But after that, Grenada first. How that sounds?
Thank you again for having me on. And I'll leave you with this. I saw this gentleman from Africa who does a lot of seminars and so on leadership. And he made a very bold and profound statement that stuck with me. He said, if you want to know how well and how progressive a country is doing, is to see how well the populace is in touch with the politician. The less they know the politician, the greater the country is doing. Because real leaders know to get out of the way to allow the leadership in the country to move the agenda forward. I'll leave you with that.
Have a good one, Mr. Glean, and bring the love to your constituents and to your team at the NNP. And we look forward for another engagement on To The Point next Tuesday. Have a blessed day.
Have a good one.
Folks, that has been To The Point this morning, Tuesday the 14th day of October. I have been speaking there with NNP's caretaker for the constituency of St. Patrick West, Mr. Jelani Glean. Thank you for your participation and contribution to the program, as always. I'm gone. Bye-bye.